listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Diana Savastano, author of The Marker. As she grew up in Westchester County, New York, Diana enjoyed writing poems, which eventually turned into feature articles and a career as a print journalist. In the early 90s, she founded DRS Publishing, which specialized in magazines. And since 2005, Diana has been helping other writers complete their manuscripts and publish their own work, as well as her own work. Welcome, Diana. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, Diana, we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. You've obviously had a very full and successful career, and it's still going on. But can you tell us what you're doing right now with helping other authors?
Right now, I'm looking to continue something I started years ago when I closed down my publishing company, and that was to assist authors who had a story to tell but didn't know how to tell it. And so I'm looking for new authors. I've been quite busy with book projects. The Marker just came out, has just been released.
Congratulations.
And I have a new book coming out in January. So it's
You're
kind of
busy.
like,
Wow. How do you
helping
do
other
that?
authors right now is there, and I would be very excited to do that, but it's kind of on a back burner while I'm continuing with just releasing the projects that I have.
Congratulations.
And then you have
Thank
more. You have more ready to go.
Yes, I actually have a number of books. Either I'll do a Kindle or I'll do an actual published work. Depends on the book. It depends on the time. But yes, I have other projects, book projects coming out, and I'm also a screenwriter, and there are screenplays I'd like to do for other writers. Not so much myself, my own books, but for other writers.
Wow. So I read on your website that you were born to be a writer. Is this correct? How
Absolutely.
Can you tell us about your youth?
You know, I always say I was born with a pencil in my hand, and I know that, we've all heard that saying before, but I really was. That's what it felt like. I started very early. I did a family newspaper, cut and paste everything myself, typed on the old-fashioned typewriter to do it. And I learned by doing and found that my family enjoyed it, not some of the articles, especially any that were critical of certain things, but they loved it, they laughed, I mailed it out, and I knew my calling from early on, and I stuck with it. Went to school to study journalism, found that I was a real quote-unquote journalist. I knew I had to report facts, not feelings or emotions. And I became a columnist, a reporter, a stringer for the Miami Herald for Palm Beach County. I did it all and didn't question back then why I was doing that. Then I went into magazine. I was a magazine editor for a food publication, and I worked as a staff writer for an economic development paper. And in those places, I had to do my own layout, my own design. I had to get my own photography. I don't recall in the past ever thinking, I don't want to do this. I just loved it. Mm-hmm. And in the process of loving it, I found that, I think I can do my own publishing company. And I did. And when I did that, it just opened up a whole new world for me. I did 2 publications that were very close to my heart. One was called the Collector News Magazine. The other was called Gourmet Fare Magazine. The food magazine was the upfront one for me. But I made it the second one to just get my feet wet. Okay. Being able to go to a printer and seeing my magazine come off that line.
Wow.
I can't even begin to tell you the feeling of that, seeing that. But when Gourmet Fare came out, and then somebody approached me and said they wanted to do a .com for Gourmet Fare, and it was in the very early years of the .coms. And I said I agreed to it with the understanding that I wanted the magazine to be in its entirety. I didn't want it to beg sort of for subscriptions. I wanted it for people to go in, read the articles, see the advertising, but more or less editorial, because I've been trained in editorial, not so much on the advertising side. But as a publisher, I had to kind of juggle two hats.
Sure.
You know, you got to have the advertising.
Right. Yes.
Right. Or you don't have a magazine.
No.
So that's the way it went. It became a successful .com. Gourmet Fare was actually the first food magazine, unless I'm wrong, but back then I thought it was. I didn't see any other that had their editorial content up in its entirety. And it grew and it became global. And I loved the outreach. I loved being able to talk to people in other countries about food.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's very cool. All from writing.
And so, yes. And all from just stepping back and letting an editor, a publisher, copyright people tell me, do this, try it. And when I tried it, I liked it, I learned it. I think that's the secret here. Learn your craft and learn it from the bottom up, not from the top down.
Sure.
It won't work.
Right.
Sure.
Learn it from the bottom up. And you, if you're born to be a writer, you will love the craft.
Well, that's
You will
what's
love the profession.
nice, it seems, about your life is that you knew what you wanted to do. And then
Yes.
some people know what they want to do, but they cannot actually achieve it. So not
Yes.
only do you have the benefit that you have, because some people don't know what they want to do, but you knew what you want to do, and it actually became a successful career. So that's wonderful. And a woman too, which is wonderful. Yay!
You know, I didn't have issues with being a woman in the industry.
Really good.
In publishing, not at all. I think it's because my personality is so strong that I think there were people who were perhaps apprehensive about coming forward and trampling on me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. If a woman has a strong personality and the person across from them knows this is not somebody you're going to be able to con,
Right.
they're going to be successful in what they're doing. I strongly believe that if you pick the profession you have a passion for, you will succeed. You will definitely succeed, but you got to have a passion for it.
Sure.
It shouldn't be a job. It should be a passion.
You're right.
And it's still a passion after all these years.
I
It's
can hear it
still
in
a
your
passion.
voice. Yeah,
Yes.
that's wonderful.
Right. So were you writing books while you were working on the magazine, or was that after?
Yes,
You,
I
okay.
had the stories. You know, I had that folder, that to-do list folder,
Sure,
that
yep.
story idea folder, and they just kept piling up, and I'd work in it at night. You know, I had, at the time, my daughter was young, and my husband had his own business, so, you know, there was a lot going on.
Yes.
But I kept a lot of folders. I kept a lot of notes and made sure that each project, and I have to say, every project I loved. I loved the characters, the strength of them, especially in my children's books. And I just continued from there,
Well,
just building it.
we were looking at some of your books. I love the covers. You have some pretty nice covers.
Yes, the Winds of Poot series is great. That's only, well, actually, it's 2 books. And it won't be another one, although I've been having requests from people saying I should do The Cat and the Mouse should have their own book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's a thought, but that's another thing that's on a back burner.
Well, I guess if you publish these books, then you are able to have full control.
Absolutely.
That is really nice. And then
That's the beauty of you publishing your own works. Yeah, you have the control. Now, you should not have the control when it comes to the editing cycle.
Oh,
You
yes.
should have someone. You should have someone beside you, because writers typically will misspell a word and will not see it all the way through. You can misspell the and not know that it's I mean, that would be a hard word to misspell, but still you get the idea. You just keep going over and over it, and then all of a sudden somebody brings it out. You misspelled this word. Oh my gosh, I've seen this a dozen times and I still didn't get it. The writer needs an editor, without a doubt.
Right.
Even me.
So, you were. Let's go back where you were writing for your family, and then professional jobs. But what made you decide I'm going to write a book? And what made you decide?
didn't. It wasn't any quick decision. It was just there. It was a part of me. When my daughter was in kindergarten, someone in the school she was in. I was working in the library at her school, and someone said to me, you should write children's stories. You're so creative. And I said, well, yes, I just actually started one, but it was one of those things, was stuck in the folder. And they said they had a friend at a publishing house in New York. Let me see it, and I'll give it to them. And they did.
Wow.
They did.
That was very lucky. Well, that's fantastic.
That was a lucky
Yeah.
thing. It was a cute story. It was my first. I think the title was Flowers Have Feelings Too.
Oh.
And it had a little rodent in it and other garden people. And, when they came to me and they said, we want the rodent to be killed or something of that nature, something violent.
Gosh.
And I said, oh, gosh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't want to kill any animals in this story.
The children's book.
Yeah. But, that was the start. And then it just evolved, just kept growing.
Great.
The marker was a long book to complete because there is I don't know if you know this, but there is the actual Civil War marker that I have.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Okay, yes, I bought it in 1991 from a antique shop in Florida, and when I held it, I just felt a connection to it, and I decided to write a story about it, fictional. And from there, I contacted the cemetery from where it was taken, because it was taken by the dealers, I believe, their son. And they confirmed, the Natchez VA National Cemetery in Natchez, Mississippi, confirmed that this was taken from there.
Wow.
And what did I intend to do with it? I said, I intend to give it back to you when my novel is completed. Well, of course, there were a lot of years in between this because this was a novel that didn't have 100% full attention because I had other projects.
Sure.
So I finished it. I actually will be in Natchez December the 11th to return the marker to its rightful place, to its final resting place, I like to say.
Very nice.
And the VA is going to have a ceremony
Oh,
to
that would
accept
be
it back
nice.
from me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know it's going to be emotional. That's much I
Yes,
know.
I would think.
Right.
Because this piece is so special to me. So what you see on the cover of my book is the actual marker.
Okay. We're looking at it right now. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. What are you doing to promote the book?
Well, I have PR people and a publicist, and they're working with me to get the news out. We're doing guest blogs, podcasts, radio interviews, that type of thing. And there's a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way we're going with it.
So working with a publicist is beneficial for you?
Yes. It's, I kind of like keep some of it in the family and some of it not. We have people in the family who know people who go around, and it's important for a writer to network with other writers and with people who are in the industry and people who have, those connections.
Right.
But a publicist, yes. I would advise a publicist. I would advise a public relations person in your own community, someone that you have a hands-on experience with, that can work with you, that knows your personality.
Oh, good points.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, I would strongly advise that. Now, that's something I can recommend, not in another state, because I'm in Johns Creek, Georgia, but I have people here at my fingertips that I can recommend to Georgia writers. But wherever you are, seek the people in your community and tap into them. Well, you're going to need help. The writer who publishes, today, if you self-publish, you're going to need a lot of help. If you go through traditional publishers, they're going to want you to go out and seek your own publicity too. Get into bookstores and so on and so forth.
Right.
Because the industry has changed so much.
Right. So since we're talking about contacting you, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out to you?
They could do it by email, by telephone. They can go into my website. Well, they can go into my website and see what's there.
When you were publishing, what did you look for? How did you decide who would get into your magazine?
Oh, now that's a great question. I tapped into people who had the drive, the vision, the passion to write. If they were food writers and they sent me a query and they were good, they were hired. If they wanted to be a food writer but had never had the experience before, I gave them an assignment. And if they fulfilled that assignment, it didn't have to be perfect, but if they had the drive and the passion for it, I gave them an assignment. I love working with people who are just starting out in the industry. The book,
That's nice to hear.
my first cover of Winds of Food was done by a fantastic artist. His name is Chris Ladwick, and this was his first book cover.
Oh, wow.
This was his first book cover. Had I had not given him that chance, I wouldn't have such a great cover.
Yeah.
You know, and the second cover was actually done by a 17-year-old who wants to be an artist.
Wow.
So I love working with people who have the drive and the passion for the craft. I'll give you the chance, and if you can do it, I'll work with you to do it, you know, make it better, or if it needs it, and that's it. That's the bottom line.
That's wonderful. Now, did you have other people reading copy also, or is it just you?
Yes. No, I had an editor, I had a copy editor, we had proofreaders.
So with your current books, are you self-publishing? Or
Yes.
Great. And are
Every
you,
single one of them.
great. And are you using CreateSpace, or who are you
I
using?
use CreateSpace and I use Amazon.
Great. And how's that been working out for you?
Actually, been working out very well. I like CreateSpace very much. You call them, they call you right back. They're right there, fingertips, right at your fingertips to help you.
And then how about getting your books into local bookstores or to libraries?
Yes, actually, you know, it depends. I have my own ISBN numbers because I'm a publisher, so I buy a block of them.
Wonderful.
I see.
Wonderful.
And this way, you know, and CreateSpace has their own ISBN numbers. So I would advise an author, an upcoming author, if they want to self-publish, go in and get your own ISBN numbers. Have as much control over your book as possible. CreateSpace is very good working with you. They will lead you along. And there are writers like myself who are, you know the way of the land now, the lay of the land, and will help also. You know, I'd like to see a community really of writers and editors helping others without looking for that fee, without charging.
Right, trying to make a dollar.
Because it's it's an expensive process to get a cover done and get internal editing and have somebody do your layout, your interior layout.
Sure.
So that's what I would like to see. Now, that might be something down the road that I may initiate through my website.
Great. So explain to me the advantage of having your own ISBN number instead of using CreateSpace and having them get it for you.
I'm not exactly sure what transpires with CreateSpace, who holds the rights. That I don't know because I've never discussed it with CreateSpace. I've always had that block that I bought, and I used my own ISBNs. And I bought the block primarily, too, because if any of my students wanted to go ahead and self-publish, then I would be able to give them and it's a minimal cost of the numbers, the ISBN numbers, their own ISBN number, or lead them to get it.
Okay, so
how it's done with CreateSpace, they do open up another channel within their channel. So my books are sold worldwide through Amazon.com Italy, let's say, or Germany, or Canada. So that's not going to change whether I have the ISBN number or CreateSpace does. And I wish I was more knowledgeable on the CreateSpace end, but they would be able to help somebody. Anyone who calls CreateSpace, they're going to get that kind of help. There's something with the extended publishing and getting them into the stores. Right now, if someone wants to go get my book out of Barnes & Noble, they can go into Barnes & Noble, they can request it, and it will be shipped to Barnes & Noble, and they can pick up the book there without paying shipping costs.
Oh, very cool.
But you've got to know that this is, you're responsible for the marketing of your book.
Yes.
Unless you take their marketing, and I think that an author can really do better he or she can do better if they get into it, learn it, and do it themselves. And there are a lot of published authors, traditionally published authors, and even best-selling authors right now who are doing it themselves because They want the control.
But there is lots of free information out there. I mean, like podcasts.
Oh my gosh,
right? I
yes.
mean, there's just, and there's plenty of blogs and web pages that have lots of information on any topic. I mean, look at YouTube. You know, when I change the handle on the microwave oven, I look at YouTube and it tells me exactly what to do.
Today we have the advantage of sitting in our home office. For some writers, it's sitting in a closet. As long as they have their own space, it's a good thing. And you go into your Google or you go into Yahoo and you can you don't even have to know what you're talking about. Just put what you're thinking in your head, okay, into that search bar, and up will come a lot of information. Now, there's some there that you're going to have to question, okay? But for the most part, when I started out, my research was in the library.
Yes.
I didn't have access to a Google or a Yahoo. I had to physically get in the car, go to the library, take out, sit at the research desk and research. Today, it's very simple. So there's no excuse not to go in and not to learn your craft. Research what you've got a book. I used to start out in the early years. I used to say to my husband, just give me a title. I can write that book. And he used to do that. He would give me the title and I would write the story. And so it's easy today. It's much easier. You've got social media, which I happen to like. I know a lot of people are like up in the air about it, but I like social media. I like Instagram. I like Facebook. I like my business Facebook pages. I like Pinterest. I'm not a Twitter person.
Right. Okay.
I'm not a tweeter.
Yeah.
But the rest of it I like, and that's vital for an author to have that social media contact.
Well, do you like the instant feedback?
Yes, I like the yes, instantaneously you're communicating.
And you feel like you're part
because
of it.
Today we no longer have the time to pick up a phone and chat with people about a recipe or about an event. This is quick, and everybody needs quick right now because their plates are full.
Yeah,
especially for a writer who wants to get a lot of books out.
Yeah, yeah.
And don't forget, as a writer too, I think there are a lot of writers out there who will agree with this. Your characters control you. The characters control the writer. Now I know that's hard to believe, okay, but they do. They pull you around by the nose.
Oh, I'm sure you become. I mean, you become. They're so much part of you.
Absolutely,
that they do take over. I'm sure.
They absolutely do. And they tell you what to do. And I found that in most of my books, if they don't like the direction, they will stop that direction. Now, of course, we're talking about a subconscious thing here.
Right.
But the characters do drive an author on.
Sure.
And that's a very good thing for a new author to learn from the beginning. And let them go. Let them do that for you.
Well, I was just about to ask, what's your advice for a new author? And
I guess pick your genre. Do you want to write children's books? Do you want to write books for adults, fiction? Do you want to write a cookbook? It picked the genre. And within the genre now, let's say for children's writing, do you want to do picture books, middle grade books, young adult novels? Do you want to do mystery? I mean, there's so many things. You've got to decide. That's what I tell my students when I had them. Decide what you want to write, and we'll go from there. Some come with a story idea already. My grandmother I found my grandmother's journal. I don't know what to do with it. There's a beautiful story within it. And that's the beginning. We'll start with that.
That's great advice. Well, thanks, Diana, for being with us today on the Author Inside You podcast. It was great
hearing. I am so happy to be with you, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
If you like our podcast,
please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. Until next time,
right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.